Welcome to our video in this series, Muscovy ducks from start to finish. Today we are talking about separation after hatching and or the different situations that you might want to have if you're starting a flock or if you're raising Muscovy ducklings. So here we have some very young ducklings that just hatched recently, and they have been taken away from mom because these ducklings are going to a new home. And so, what the situation we had for this hatching is that we were given some fertilized eggs by a friend who wants their own ducks. And one of our ducks sat on those eggs to hatch them. And now that they've hatched, these little baby ducks are going to live with our friend. And so, what happens is as they hatch, ideally, you want to be there as it's happening, kind of monitoring the event. If you can, it takes a few hours. So if it's happening in the middle of the night, don't stress yourself out about it. But what we would ideally like in this specific case is for us to have our brooder ready and set up. And as the ducklings hatch, you move them to the brooder. And as they fluff up, you let mom take care of them. They're out of the shell, they're nice and fluffy, bring them in here one by one, and then they can hang out here and mom can be on her merry way. Now, obviously, this kind of gets into a gray area of, I would say, animal husbandry ethics. It depends on your point of view, it depends on your desired outcome as to how and what you want to do with the babies in relation to their mother. And technically this is not their mother. This is the duck that incubated them and now they're hatching. So obviously the duck that incubated these eggs is at this point in a little bit of distress, wondering where her babies are. And that will fade. Again, I'm trying to sort of speak on this in the mid zone of the ethical playing field here. Like, obviously it's not kind to put a duck through anxiety like that if you take babies away. So you could use an incubator and avoid the whole issue. That's perfectly fine. You probably won't get as many ducklings. That being said, this is one way that you can do it. And again, it's sort of like a ideal situation is that you don't really give them much time together, that they sort of, these ducklings bond together and the mom sort of transitions from sitting on eggs to sitting on nothing. And that's one way you can do it. The benefit to this method, mostly, I would say, especially if you're starting a young flock, if you don't include the mother in the raising of the ducklings, is that they see you as the parent. They imprint on you. They follow you everywhere. And they become very amiable, social, collaborative little creatures rather than ducks that are on some deeper level actually afraid of you. It's not a guarantee one way or the other. You could have ducklings that you raise by hand that end up being kind of skittish and afraid of you or aggressive or whatever. They have personalities. And you could have ducklings that a mama raises that you're nearby and they grow to love you too. All of those things have happened. I will say the odds are, if you raise ducklings yourself without the aid of mom, you will have a better bond with them. They will have a better bond with you. What else I was going to talk about was the situation for raising them with a mom is that you don't have to worry about them so much. You can keep them with mom the entire time. You don't even necessarily need a brooder. You do need to make sure that the ducklings have access to their food and their water. Adult and baby food is different. Please, have a look at that. And if memory serves, mama can eat baby duck food, but baby ducks can't eat mama food. So you can always age down with your food, and everyone in the enclosure will be perfectly fine. If you are keeping ducklings and mama together, I would not put them with other ducks. It might be totally fine depending on your flock. It might not be totally fine, especially with males. Males tend to be like kind of mindlessly territorial and might not see them as babies at all, and so could easily kill one by accident, or I mean, on purpose. But um, you definitely, if you're letting the ducklings and mom kind of grow up together, you want to keep them separated without any other ducks until those babies can take a good peck on the back without getting killed. Because you will see that happen. You will see territorialism. And you could introduce, another duck into the cage for an hour or two and see how that goes. And you want those living in enclosures or cages to be really close to each other so that they do see other ducks and they get that socialization. But generally, that's what you'd be looking at if that's the way you want it to go. So at this point, this is going to be the last setup they have here before our friend comes to bring them to a brooder at their house, which will look something probably similar to this. And then our friend's going to raise them as the parent. And so that's kind of, one of the paths you can choose. You can just let them be with the adults and not give them any attention from you. You can keep them, a traditional duck raised duck if you wanted to. I think a lot of the appeal of this breed is that they are social. They are an enjoyable kind of companion slash pet type of duck compared to a runner. And so I think this is the kind of dilemma and questions you need to ask yourself before you are like at this point in the journey and what you want to do and what you feel comfortable doing. It's an emotionally challenging experience taking babies away from their mom, but it's also an emotionally rewarding experience bonding with them. So, yeah, it's questions that you're going to have to answer for yourselves. And I'd appreciate not having any judgment or criticism on our choices for this situation, although I'm sure there will be some. That's okay. But, different spokes for different folks. Of course, I got to give you a little close up of the darlings before we end the video. Hey, sweet peas. They are so freaking cute at this age. No matter what, give them some handling. It's so much fun. Give them some love, some pets, some kisses. Don't don't bite them. Don't put them completely in your mouth. That's all the things that your intrusive thoughts want you to do. Don't do those things. Okay. Hopefully, all of that information about separation and the setup after hatching was helpful and clear. And let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.